If someone told you that your future had already been written, would you want to read it? I didn't. Not until the morning I opened my mailbox and found an envelope with no stamp, no date, and handwriting that looked exactly like mine, only younger at first. I thought it was a prank, but the moment I touched it, something in me shifted, like my own memories were warning me, like a part of me I had forgotten was suddenly waking up. The letter didn't come from a stranger. It came from someone who knew me, someone who knew what was about to happen before I did. And the first line wasn't a greeting. It was a goodbye, Robin, when you read this. I will already be gone. That one sentence cracked open a part of my life I didn't even know was missing. And by the time I read the last line, I realized this letter wasn't meant for the man I was that morning. It was meant for the man I would be after everything changed. This is the story of that letter, and the knock on my door that happened only minutes later. No one expects their life to change because of a single envelope sitting quietly inside an old metal mailbox. But the morning I reached in and pulled out a letter with no stamp, no return address, and most unsettling of all, no date written in a handwriting that looked exactly like mine, I felt a cold ripple move through me. A quiet warning that whatever I was holding wasn't meant for the version of myself I was that morning, but for the version of myself I had not yet become. It was early, the sun still low behind the maple trees that lined my street, the kind of morning where the world feels soft enough to trust for a few minutes. And I was doing what I always did, walking outside in my slippers to grab the Daily Mail like some retired ghost who still believes routines keep him tethered to the world, when I opened the mailbox and saw it. A single beige envelope, too plain to be threatening and too deliberate to be a mistake. My name was written across the front. Robin, not Mr. Williams, not resident, not even Rob, just Robin, the way someone who loved me once would have written it. I don't know why, but I froze. Something about that single word felt too familiar, too intimate. Like a voice I hadn't heard in years, whispering from behind my shoulder. I looked up and down the empty street as if the sender might still be there, hiding behind one of the oak trunks or slipping into a car parked along the curb. But nothing moved. The world was still, and the envelope waited patiently in my hand. I didn't open it right away. I carried it inside like it might break, or worse, like it might break me. The house felt unusually quiet as I stepped inside, the way homes do when you suddenly realize you're the only one breathing in them. I sat at the kitchen table, the same place where I used to read scripts or open fan letters or scribble jokes I thought were clever but no one else laughed at, and held the envelope between my fingers. No date, no sign of when it had been written, no stamp, meaning someone had delivered it by hand. My chest tightened. I slid a finger under the flap and opened it. There was a single sheet of paper and textured, the kind people used decades ago when writing meant something, and the handwriting, slanted and a bit shaky like the hand that wrote it wasn't sure it had the right, made my breath catch. It looked like mine, not exactly, more like how my handwriting used to look when I was younger, before years pressed their weight into my fingers, but familiar enough that my stomach tightened. And the first line, written in dark ink, nearly made me drop the page. Robin, when you read this, I will already be gone. I blinked, my heart stumbling. I read the line again, and again. The house suddenly felt too small, the walls leaning inward. I kept going. Don't be afraid of what comes next. You've been here before, even if you don't remember. A chill swept through me. What did that mean? Been here before? I continued, my fingers trembling. You will want to throw this letter away. Don't you need it more than you know? I swallowed hard, the paper blurring slightly as my eyes stung. And when the knock on your door comes, you must let him in. I lowered the letter slowly, my pulse loud in my ears. A knock on my door, from who? And why him? I read the line again, feeling my throat tighten, and that was when I noticed something at the very bottom of the page. One final sentence, written smaller than the rest, as if the writer wasn't sure I'd be able to handle it. You already know who he is. I didn't. I absolutely didn't. Or at least, I didn't think I did. But the letter didn't feel like the kind of message meant to deceive. It felt like truth wrapped in mystery, the way life often is when you're older and the past starts pulling at you gently, asking to be remembered. I folded the letter carefully, as if it were alive, and set it on the table. And then, because life has a cruel sense of timing, there was a knock at my front door. It wasn't loud, just a soft taps, but my whole body tensed as if someone had shouted my name. I stood up slowly, the wood floor creaking beneath my feet, and walked toward the door, every step echoing the words of the letter. When the knock on your door comes, you must let him in. My hand hovered over the doorknob. What if this was a prank? What if someone was watching me right now, waiting for me to follow instructions like some desperate character in a story? But despite the fear, despite the confusion, Something deeper, something instinctual told me I wasn't in danger. Not yet. I opened the door. A man stood on my porch, tall, thin eyes downcast. His hands were jammed deep in the pockets of a faded jacket. He looked maybe 30, maybe younger, but something about him felt older, like he had lived too much in too little time. When he lifted his head, his eyes met mine with a mixture of hesitation and painful recognition, like he knew me in ways I didn't know him. "Robin?" he asked softly. I nodded. He exhaled shakily, relief softening his posture. "You don't recognize me," he whispered. It wasn't a question. I shook my head. "I'm sorry. Should one—" A small, sad smile touched his lips. "Not yet," he said. "But you will." My pulse raced. "Who are you?" I asked. He hesitated before answering. "Someone who promised he'd come back when the time was right." My brows pulled together. "Time?" He nodded. "May I come in?" The words flashed in my mind. "You must let him in." So I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, like stepping across the threshold meant more than entering a house, like he was entering a memory. He looked around the living room with eyes that softened into something painful, nostalgic, almost reverent. "It hasn't changed much," he murmured. My breath hitched. "You've been here before." He nodded. "Many times, but you weren't always here." A cold shiver crept up my spine. "I think you should tell me your name." He looked at the floor, then at the window, then finally at me. "My name is Daniel." Something fluttered faintly in my chest. Familiar. Wrongly familiar. "Daniel," I repeated, letting the name roll around in my mind like a stone I couldn't see clearly. He took a deep, trembling breath. "Robin, I'm the one who wrote the letter." My knees weakened. "You wrote it?" He nodded. "Just not today." I blinked. "Not today. Not this year," he clarified. "And not in this lifetime of yours." My skin prickled. "What does that mean?" Daniel hesitated, his eyes shining with something fragile and haunted. "It means the letter came from a version of me you haven't met yet, and a version of you I already knew." My breath caught, my throat tightened. "Daniel, are you telling me you're from the future?" His silence was the loudest confirmation I'd ever heard. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I didn't come here to confuse you," he whispered. "I came because you're in danger, because something from your past is about to return, and because I owe you my life." My body froze. "My past?" He nodded. "Something you buried, something that's coming back." My chest squeezed painfully. "Why now?" Daniel swallowed. "Because this is the moment you start remembering." I shook my head. "Remembering what?" Daniel looked at me with eyes that carried too many years. "The life you saved, the one you lost, and the one you're about to lose again if we don't act now." I didn't know what frightened me more, the idea that this man named Daniel was lying to me, deliberately spinning some dangerous illusion designed to pull me into a trap, or the possibility that he was telling the truth and that I really was holding a letter written by a future version of him, and meant for a future version of myself, a version I could barely imagine existing. Yet as he stood there in my living room with his hands shaking just enough to betray his fear, I sensed something deeper, something familiar in the way he kept glancing toward the corners of the room like he expected the past itself to step out of the shadows and confront him. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The house felt too still, as if it were listening. Daniel rubbed his thumb across his palm in a small, nervous motion, the kind someone repeats when they've been living with fear for too long. "I know how this sounds," he said softly. "You don't have to believe me yet. Just listen." I sank slowly into the armchair across from him, my heart thudding loudly in my ears, and even though my hands trembled slightly, I felt a strange, steadying clarity. I'd lived enough life to know when someone was telling a truth that cost them something. Daniel's voice carried that cost. "I didn't come here to scare you," he continued. "I came because you helped me once, helped me in a way that changed the direction of my life. You saved me from something I didn't understand back then, and now that same thing is coming for you." His words hit a cold place inside me. "What thing?" I asked quietly. Daniel hesitated, his gaze drifting to the fireplace as if searching for memories hiding in the embers. "It's not a person," he said slowly. "It's a moment." I frowned. "A moment," he nodded. "A moment you lived once, long ago. A moment that should have destroyed you then, and will destroy you now if we don't stop it." My pulse raced. "Daniel, I don't remember any moment like that." He inhaled sharply. "I know that's why I'm here." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a second envelope older than the one I found that morning. More worn, edges softened like it had been held thousands of times. "This is yours," he said, placing it gently on the coffee table. "Your handwriting, but from a future you." My body stiffened. "I wrote myself a letter." Daniel nodded. You wrote it the last night I saw you. His voice wavered. My last night with you. A cold ache settled into my chest. Daniel, I whispered, who are you to me? He looked up, eyes bright with something fragile, fear, longing, grief. I couldn't tell which. Someone you saved, he said simply. Someone who loved you like family long before I understood what that meant. Silence fell heavy between us, thick with unasked questions. I forced myself to open the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a single line written in my handwriting, oldish, Akir, like it came from a man who had lived through something unspeakably heavy. If he returns, it means the past didn't end. Follow him. My breath hitched. Follow you where? Daniel clasped his hands together tightly. To the place where everything started. The place you spent your whole life forgetting. My heart dropped. I don't know what you mean. His expression softened painfully. You do, he whispered. You just don't want to remember. He stood, moving toward the window as if the world outside held the answers he couldn't yet speak. The night I met you, he continued, voice barely above a whisper. You found me on the side of an old road in Ridge. It was raining. I was wearing a coat far too big for me because it wasn't mine. And you, he paused, swallowing hard. You wrapped your own coat around me even though you were freezing. You didn't ask who I was or what I'd done. You just said, no child should be this alone in the world. My heart trembled. Ridgewood, I repeated, the word tasting like an old wound. Daniel nodded slowly. Yes, you lived there once. When you were young, long before your name meant anything to anyone, before the world expected you to be bigger than your pain. My pulse hammered. I barely remember that town, I know, Daniel said, because someone erased those memories from you, someone trying to protect you from the moment that almost killed you. A headache pulsed behind my eyes, like old memories were clawing at a locked door. Daniel, I asked weakly, what happened in Rit? He closed his eyes. A fire, my breath caught. A fire, he nodded. One that took too many lives. One you weren't supposed to survive. My throat tightened. How did I? Daniel interrupted gently. You didn't survive it, Robin. Not the way you think. The version of you before the fire died that night, the person you became after, was someone new. A strange, painful clarity washed over me like hearing an old melody you didn't know you remembered. My voice trembled. And you were there. Daniel nodded. You saved me from that fire. You carried me out. My hand shook uncontrollably. I don't remember any of this. You weren't meant to, he whispered. The letter from your future self. It's to warn you that the reason you lost your memory is coming back. I swallowed, unsure whether I was breathing shallowly or not at all. Why now? Because the moment that erased your memory is about to happen again. And this time, you won't survive it. A cold wave swept through my body. What moment? He stepped closer, his voice urgent now. The moment someone tried to kill you to stop you from saving me. I felt the room tilt, the edges of reality growing thin. Daniel reached out as if afraid I'd collapse. Robin, listen to me, he whispered desperately. You survived that night because someone arrived just in time and pulled you away from the fire. Someone you loved, someone who's been waiting for you ever since. My heart pounded violently. Daniel took a deep breath, steadied himself, then said the words that shattered the last piece of composure I had. Your brother. My knees weakened. No, I whispered. My brother died. He drowned. Daniel shook his head, eyes filled with something aching and true. That's what you were told. That's what they needed you to believe. But your brother didn't drown. He pulled you from that burning cabin and disappeared to keep you alive. And he sent me back now because the people who started that fire have returned. The world spun. You're telling me my brother is alive? Daniel nodded. Yes, and he's running out of time. Before I could speak, before I could breathe, a loud knock rattled the front door, 3 heavy, deliberate pounds that shook the frame. Daniel's eyes widened in terror. It's too soon, he whispered. They found us. My pulse raced. Who? He grabbed my arms, his grip trembling. The ones who killed your past, the ones who want to kill your future. Another knock, louder now, shaking the walls. Daniel's voice broke. Robin, please, whatever happens, stay with me. Don't open that door alone. The knock became pounding. The letter on the table fluttered in the draft. Robin, the voice outside shouted deep, familiar, impossible. My heart stopped. That voice, older, rougher, but alive. Daniel whispered, trembling, that's him. My world collapsed inward. Your brother, Daniel said breathlessly. He came back. The pounding grew desperate. Robin opened the door. They're coming. Daniel pulled me back from the threshold. Robin, he whispered, eyes bright with both fear and hope. Whatever you do next, will decide whether you live or die. And I stood there, frozen between 2 voices, the present calling me forward, and the past demanding to be remembered. If you stayed with me through this story, thank you. Some moments in life remind us how fragile memory is and how powerful it can be when it returns. And if a story like this touched you, made you think of someone you lost, or someone you're still waiting to find, I'd truly love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to join me for more emotional, reflective stories like this one, feel free to subscribe and leave a like. It helps more than you know. Until the next story, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other.